Gospel Tangents is supported by users like you. Please support us at gospeltangents.com or on Patreon.
I'm Scott Vance, and you're listening to Gospel Tangents, the best source for Mormon history, science, and theology.
And first daily Mormon history podcast, I'm Rick Bennett. I'm excited to conclude our conversation with Scott Vance. In our final conversation, we're going to talk about Tim Ballard and the controversy he has with his Operation Underground Railroad. You won't want to miss this conversation. Check it out. Are they anti-vaxxers?
I mean, they have to transition. I understand that you have older members that want to believe in the magic spectacles, the Urim and Thummim, and you have young members who don't care. They just want to know what the official line is. Mm-hmm. So you have to placate both crowds. It's tricky. It's really hard to shift narratives effectively.
Well, and it's just so funny now because, you know, the Gospel Topics essay comes out, and I think the first one is 2013. I don't remember when one came out.
Yep.
But you have people like Jonathan and Jim that are like, no, the Gospel Topics essay is wrong. We like the traditional narrative. You got the Hannah Stoddard, Kim Watson Smith from the Joseph Smith Foundation, big supporters of the Heartland theory. You see them at Firm Foundation. By the time this comes out, people are going to see my presentation at the Firm Foundation. I got a lot of crap for that on Twitter. And then I'm like, yeah, now see what I said? Now you're going to be like, hey. Because I was not endorsing the Heartland. Sure. But that is a vibrant group. And, you know, I said this to Jonathan, like, they take Richard Bushman's name in vain. They don't like the Gospel Topics essays. They're like, this is the way that we grew up, and we still think this. And so the church, I mean, they're wrestling both sides. You've got the scholars who are saying it's a seer stone. You've got the Joseph Smith Foundation, and why not pick that name? And the Heartlanders that are like, no, it's Urim and Thummim. Yep. And so it's tough.
It's very tough. So anytime you change narrative, you risk the movement fragmenting. When the church changed from a polygamy narrative in 1890, prior to 1890, to a we're not going to practice polygamy narrative, it caused splinter groups to appear, right? So that's the risk that the church takes anytime they change the narrative. The Gospel Topics essays, I would argue, was a shift in the narrative in some ways, and so you're going to have a reaction to that, and the reaction that you've had is on the right with the Joseph Smith Foundation and all these other groups popping up.
I hate to say this. I love Jonathan, and he's not an anti-vaxxer, but for the most part, the Rod Meldrum Make Cumorah Great Again crowd
sure.
are anti-vaxxers, and so I can see how they not only don't like the COVID vaccine, but they don't like this inoculation that Michael Quinn's spouting.
They don't like any kind of inoculation.
Right.
Sure.
And so, and I don't want to paint with that with a broad brush, because there are people that are different.
Sure.
But I would say the majority are just what I said. And so, any advice for
who?
Church?
For the church.
Do they start excommunicating the Heartlanders? Or, I mean, they're good tithe payers too, so.
Good. Well, and the thing is, they really believe, and they believe sincerely, and they want to help the church.
Right.
And do you turn your back on somebody?
How are they different than the More Good Foundation? Book of Mormon evidence is...
Yeah, no, I mean, the intent is the same. They want to help the church. They want to do what is right. These are people that, if we can say this, that their heart's in the right place, right?
I mean, they are big Tim Ballard fans. I'll say that too.
Oh, they are. And in fact, that was funny. When I was going through all the finances here, it's another tangent, it is Gospel Tangents.
That's where we are.
Some of the major funders to these church-affiliated groups were also major funders to Tim Ballard and OUR.
Oh.
But that's another paper for another time. So back to the topic. What does the church do with these people who...
True believers.
Absolutely true believers. I think that the church needs to do more pruning on the right. I'm not necessarily talking about any of these individuals, but people like Ammon Bundy are nothing they're bad news for the church. They're going to hurt the image of the church as much as anything. And if the church doesn't distance themselves from these people, then it's going to hurt the church. People on the left, when they were looking at John Dehlin or whatever, church members already knew that he was wacko and that he wasn't helping out the church. But on the right, these people are very sincere. And so if the church doesn't distance themselves from these individuals and their theories, then it's going to taint the church in some way, in my opinion.
It is interesting. September was excommunication month here at Gospel Tangents. And, there are the Abraham Gileadis to go along with the other 5, which I will say more liberal scholars. And you do have a Julie Rowe here or a Norman.
Denver Snuffer, right?
Well, Denver Snuffer.
Yeah.
And there's a few on the right, but and I don't know if it's, like Abraham Gileadi, for example, he wants to pretend that excommunication never happened. He keeps it quiet. He doesn't grant interviews. And I don't even think Julie Rowe, Tim Ballard, and maybe we should say who Tim Ballard is. People might not know. Tell who Tim Ballard is.
Oh, I'm the wrong person to talk about Tim Ballard. But Tim Ballard founded OUR, which is Operation Rescue...
Underground Railroad.
Underground Railroad.
Railroad, yeah.
Thank you. I apologize. And the purpose of this organization is ostensibly to go into areas where children are being held, essentially as sex slaves, and to rescue these children, which sounds wonderful and something that everybody should get behind. But his methods and methodologies are questioned by people who work professionally in this area. He's donated a ton of donations from both rich and poor. Throughout the church. He seemed to have tacit backing of the church. He had a number of publications that were available for sale in Deseret Book for almost a decade. But it turned out that he had a major scandal as well, and that involved, I don't even know if I should call it sexual allegations of sexual grooming or sexual harassment of women who would go on missions with him, where he would essentially push them to have some sort of sexual relations in order to help these children. So one could say that he was very manipulative and that this was not necessary in order to help the children.
And that also he was overselling his rescuing the sex slaves operation as well.
Sure. And in addition to that, he was using a psychic who was channeling Nephi and just things that would be way outside of mainstream Mormonism. Like
a seer stone? I'm just kidding. But it appears, there's been no official confirmation. Sounds like he's been excommunicated. He's running for Mitt Romney's seat in the Senate. Well, I guess maybe that's not official, but it sounds like he's going to.
There were rumors that he was going to run. I have not seen any confirmation of that.
Well, and I haven't seen any confirmation of his excommunication either by him or by the church.
Correct, but there are inside sources that hint that that might be the case.
Yeah. And so I just wonder, these people on the right that by the way, his last name is the same name as President Ballard.
Sure.
And apparently he was name dropping, hey, President Ballard's on my team. And President Ballard's like, no, I am not.
Yeah, so Lynn Packard has done a lot of investigative reporting, and he's said that there was a dinner where Tim Ballard showed up and did a presentation for essentially all the members of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles and things. So it appears like there was some sort of connection, that the church has denied that there was any connection, and we would only be speculating with respect to how big of a connection there was. But if you want to research that, Tim Packard is... Lynn Packard is...
I need to get Lynn on. Sure. But at any rate, so that's kind of the story behind Tim. But it does seem like, and I'm just trying to get your opinion on this, a lot of people on the left, hey, I got excommunicated, I'm going to make big noise. A lot of people on the right are kind of more hush-hush about it, and they still want to be in good graces with the church, and they don't publicize as much. Do you think that maybe the church does go after some of these people on the right wing more than the left, that they're just quieter about it?
The They do tend to be quieter about it. So if you look at conservative and liberal values, if we're talking on the political spectrum, trust and loyalty is much stronger on the conservative side. So we would expect that the trust and loyalty, even for these members, even the ones that are excommunicated, would be much higher. So some of them may be excommunicated but still loyal to the movement. When they leave the movement, if they choose to leave the movement and take a hard exit, they're much more likely to form splinter groups, and those splinter groups are much more likely to be successful because they're going to have loyal followings as well. So you run a big risk as any institution when you cut off people on the right, and that makes
a bigger risk than on the left.
Yeah, because on the left, what do? They go on Mormon stories and they yell for 5 hours, and then and then that's it, right? But if you cut them off on the right, maybe they're Mormonism version 3 or whatever.
Or they end up being polygamous.
Oh, sure, which is whatever version, sure.
I think it's an interesting dynamic to look at because I do think on the left there can be a bigger persecution complex than on the right, and I'm curious if that's warranted. What do you think?
So I believe statistically they're more likely to go after people on the left than on the right, but I could be wrong on that. And in terms of feeling persecuted, that's anybody who goes on there to feel persecuted because that's what people do online. That seems like that's a relatively recent phenomenon of the last 10 years that everybody wants to feel persecuted, and I have issues with that. But
so are the people on the left persecuted, would you say?
You
would probably be on the left, right?
I am on the left, and I don't think... I think that the actual level of persecution versus what people like to say is on a completely different level. I don't think there's a lot of persecution of people on the left. Now, having said that, I will say that past rhetoric of church leaders with respect to LGBTQ individuals is harmful, and they should be held accountable for that rhetoric. And frankly,
the church should be held accountable, you're saying?
Yeah, and the people who said that or people from the church should make official apologies for some of that rhetoric because some of that was really toxic. I haven't seen a lot of that rhetoric in the last 5 to 10 years, but some of the stuff going back to the 70s, 80s, and even 90s is, in my opinion, harmful and warrants an apology.
Okay. Well, have we covered everything?
Yeah, I think we've covered a lot. Thank you.
All right. Well, Scott Vance, thank you so much for being here on Gospel Tangents. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Rick.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for listening, and I hope you continue to enjoy Gospel Tangents. Consider becoming a Patreon or go to gospeltangents.com/shop, and you can get a cool tie, a hat, or even a nice mug. You can also get a sweatshirt. So check it out at gospeltangents.com/shop.
I'm Scott Vance, and you're listening to Gospel Tangents, the best source for Mormon history, science, and theology.
That was awesome. Okay.